Have you ever felt completely drained by the conflicts in your life? Maybe you're an empath who feels everything. Or maybe you just feel stuck in a loop of reacting rather than responding. We often think peace is just the absence of fighting. But what if peace is actually an action you can take? Today, I'm sitting down with a mother-daughter duo who claim that conflict isn't something to avoid. It's actually the gateway to your highest frequency. By the end of this conversation, you won't just understand why you get triggered. You will have a practical toolkit to shift that energy instantly. If you're ready to stop absorbing stress and start igniting peace, stay right here. Welcome back to Awaken Your Authentic Self. I'm your host, Jessica Rooks. This is your sacred space for soul-led seekers and truth tellers who are ready to rise into their fullest expression. Each episode, we journey inward to uncover the intuitive wisdom that helps us navigate this human experience with more grace and authenticity. Today's guests are a powerful testament to the healing that is possible between generations. They are co-founders of Love Ignites Peace, a movement dedicated to empowering us to put love into action. Please welcome the dynamic mother-daughter team, Paige Farrington and Ashlyn Prendergast. Paige is an international impact award-winning author and intuitive guide, and Ashlyn is a high vibe activator who helps people, especially the younger generation, connect with their inner light. Together, they are experts in the subconscious mind and conflict resolution. They are here to teach us how to navigate our relationships, especially the one with ourselves, using their framework of love's 6 actions. Paige, Ashlyn, it is such an honor to have you in this sacred space with us today. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I know Ashlyn and I are both thrilled to be here, and we've been looking forward to this conversation for days.
Well, that makes 3 of us. That's the first time I can say that. Well, I want to dive straight into the heart of things because your story really resonated with me. Paige, you've shared that before your awakening, you felt unaware, unawake, and exhausted. I know so many soul-led seekers listening right now are in that exact spot, feeling out of alignment but unsure of why. For the person listening who feels that bone-deep exhaustion, what is the very first sign that their frequency is off? And what is the single most important loving action they can take today to shift that?
Well, that is a really excellent and deep question, one that I could probably talk to for the next 45 minutes, but I will try to keep this somewhat brief. And in fact, if you want even more of that story, of course, you know it's reflected in the book, Love Ignites Peace, Our Next Evolution. But I feel such empathy for every seeker out there who is feeling this lack of alignment, because that too was my story. And I started my journey, my seeking, and I've often asked myself, like, what are we all seeking? Well, we're all seeking not to be out of alignment, right? And to feel that centered, authentic self that goes through life with joy. And that is what I wanted from the bottom of my heart. So it was my lack of alignment, my unhappiness, my, even depression and feeling low energy and defeat that really was the impetus for me to set off on this deep journey of self-exploration. So when you ask, like, what is the first sign that their frequency is off? The answer is check in with yourself. And if you are feeling out of alignment, whatever that means for you, because it's different for all of us, then that is your note to self. Okay, I need to go into this mode of self-discovery. And I think we oftentimes forget that our emotions and our emotional state, our long-term feelings, are just full of information for us to discover.
Right.
What's behind those emotions? What's behind those long-term feelings? Meaning, what is causing me to feel this way? And so, the first thing that I did years ago, and this was just me following my own, I guess, guidance, which was I think out loud to the universe. I said, I am going to figure this out. I am so tired of feeling unhappy. I'm so tired of not having energy. Help me, universe, God, whatever it is that you think of as this higher power in your life, help me find the answers to what is going on deep inside of me so that I can be liberated from this feeling of being out of alignment. So first for me, it started with intention, and then it went on a deep journey of self-awareness. I started my day journaling. I mean, even Ashlyn will remember my yellow wingback chair, in my office, which also doubled as my meditation room. And I would journal what was I feeling. I would ask myself, why did I think I feel this way? What was causing me to feel this way? So I went into this really, really deep and long period of self-assessment, trying to become more and more self-aware. And I think that is your number one step to all of this, to become deeply self-aware. As humans, I don't know of any other species that's been gifted with this ability to self-assess.
Right. It's true.
But humans, we have that ability. Let's use that gift so that we can begin the process of liberating ourselves from these emotional states and these feelings that are heavy and are not high vibration. But I would say don't judge that. This is something for you to learn from. It's just information for
Right.
you to use on your own journey.
Absolutely. That makes so much sense. And it's funny you speak about that conversation with the universe because that's where my major shift into. I was just done, sat on the beach, full moon. Actually, it was a new moon. And said, I'm going to manifest. I'm going to manifest a whole new life. and,
Yes.
and I just, anything that no longer serves me, just make it go away, and just bring in what serves me. And my whole life changed that whole year. That was an incredible, incredible year for me.
Well, it's such a beautiful story, and I think there's such truth in that. I mean, this is, we are not associated with any sort of religion, but there is such truth in this: ask and you shall receive.
Oh,
And I
yes.
love it when you can ask it out loud, shout it to the universe,
Yes.
make sure the universe knows exactly what you want.
Exactly. Well, I had realized at that point that so many things that were negative in my life I had invited in without realizing it. And I said, well, it's time for me to be intentional. And I did that. And I'll tell you, that year, I stopped drinking. I stopped caffeine. All the meat disappeared. I became a vegetarian. I invited my soul partner into my life. Like, it was just a whole big experience. It was a beautiful year for me.
Wow, you did it all in a
Oh,
very short period of time.
my
Wow.
girlfriend said that for some reason she goes, spirit is fast tracking you for something. And then, 3 years later, here I am with a podcast living on the other side of the world. So maybe she was right about that.
Well, congratulations on that, and truly for following your heart, shouting it out to the universe, and being here today to spread that wisdom so that others can benefit from your journey.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we talk a lot on this channel about rising into our fullest expression, but we often bump into invisible walls. You both mentioned the subconscious mind is the key to putting love in action. What is one specific subconscious pattern or limiting belief that you each had to unlearn to truly step into this work? And how did that shift change your relationship with yourself?
Well, I'll jump in here. Hello, everyone listening. This is Ashlyn. I have not pumped in yet, so I'm excited to be chatting with you all. I think it's first important to note really what the subconscious mind is. So obviously we all have one. This isn't a unique experience. All of us have a conscious and a subconscious mind. But I don't know that all of us realize what an absolute driver in our life the subconscious mind is. And there's a classic image that tries to explain, this point, which is of the iceberg. So an iceberg, you can only really see the top 10% out of the water, but underneath there's another 90%, which is big and can have lasting, ginormous effects. Hello, have we seen the Titanic?
Right, exactly.
All these types of things. So it's also important to understand that 90% that we can't see under the water has been really programmed into our lives, right? It's come from our life experiences, things that we've been told, traumas that have happened. I mean, if you want to take it to an etherical perspective, right, it can come from a past life. And so one of our passions around the subconscious mind is really helping our clients, but then in regards to this question and our own personal journeys that brought us here, is basically excavating those things that are causing the repeated patterns that consciously you're like, this is crazy, like I know better than this, and I'm fighting, but you've got this belief, kind of like a programmed computer, right? Ones and zeros are beneath the surface. That's been programmed for a certain output, but it's time to change that output. So in answering your question of what did we unlearn, right? We had to unlearn whatever input was in that subconscious mind to create a different output. And for me, a big theme I believe a lot of people will relate to is this feeling of an over-responsibility for others.
Yes.
So, yeah, right? Especially as women having this conversation, we have such a culture of female service, and, we're also trained mother-daughter coaches, and this was a whole nother layer that we investigated some of our subconscious beliefs just from that. But, beliefs that I had were things like everyone else's experience is my job. My parents' marriage was my responsibility. Everyone's happiness, their enjoyment, it was all on my shoulders, which, as you can imagine, it's pretty exhausting to always carry everyone else's experience and journeys on my back.
Yes.
And so I have worked very hard and done a lot of the subconscious work that we do in Love Ignites Peace to really unlearn those beliefs and reinstall things that are, allowing others to have their own journey and their own experiences. But something I think is really important to note about this is that unlearning a certain belief, like everyone else is my responsibility, does not all of a sudden make me someone that doesn't care about others.
Right.
It just allows me to more authentically care for others without it coming from a place that is unhealthy, if that makes sense. Like I can show up for others in a way that still honors my boundaries and allows them to have their experiences and allows me to enjoy. For example, if I'm at dinner and somebody else is in a bad mood, it's not my job to improve their mood.
Right, exactly.
So that's truly a big piece of the subconscious mind that I always like to call out, because unlearning these patterns doesn't make you no longer a good person. It just allows you to more authentically and healthily express those parts of yourself that make you that good person. So that's a big one for me. And then just a 10-second story within that is one of our clients we worked with last year. It was just before her wedding, and she shared this similar feeling of being responsible for others. And we did a huge clearing session for her where we unearthed like so many of these subconscious beliefs. And it was really cool because after the wedding, she called us and said, I simply could not have enjoyed my wedding day the way I did if I would not have worked with you, because I was able to just be present and show up, but not feel like I had to take care of everyone's needs, whims, and their enjoyment. So the work is real. Like this call out on the subconscious mind is a very powerful one, but I'll pass the torch over to my mom so she can share about hers.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for that, Ashlyn. And I think you certainly shared a subconscious program that so many of us, have I'm going to say suffered with,
Yes.
especially
I resonated with me.
right, especially as women, right? But another one that was a big one for me that really has gone through as I've looked back and reflected and done the subconscious work. And before we end this question, I am going to tell you how we delete our subconscious programs. So we'll save that here for in just a minute. But as I went back and looked at my life, what I discovered was there was not one aspect of my life where I actually felt like I was enough.
Mm.
I wasn't enough for myself. I wasn't enough for my husband. I wasn't enough for my family. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't creative enough. I mean, it's kind of sickening, really, when I looked back.
Your mirror sounds like mine was.
Yeah, and how this theme of not enoughness wove itself through my life. And that's the thing with these subconscious programs is they so affect how you show up in the world, like what Ashlyn was alluding to. Well, if I didn't believe I was enough for myself, I mean, this especially became evident in my romantic relationships. I wanted to find someone who I thought was smarter than me, more creative than me, all of those things, more enough than me. And it really then created a place of disempowerment for me
Right.
within that relationship. In fact, it disempowered the entire relationship, really when I look back. Did I love my romantic partner? Yes, I loved my romantic partner, but it wasn't from a place of empowerment. It was really from a place of disempowerment, which was basically saying, I'm looking to you to make me feel like I'm enough.
Exactly.
And
right.
that never happened. In fact, it just created this exhausting, never ending dialogue of whatever it was, conflict or harsh words or whatever it was that never ended up serving either of us. And so I take full responsibility at this point now, as I've had a chance to dissect all that and reflect back, of how actually I was looking for someone else to make me feel like I was enough. And the fact of the matter is that'll never happen.
Right.
You truly have to stay in that authenticity of being enough and knowing that you're enough no matter what. And we know that deeply, right? As a child of the divine, we know that so profoundly. We are enough no matter what, but our subconscious mind doesn't necessarily believe that. And sadly, that's really what's dictating our human experience, not the truth and the knowing that we are divine children of this higher power.
It's funny you say that because my second marriage, my late husband used to tell me all the time, you need a friend. I would go to talk to him. You need a friend. And the truth was, I did need a friend. I needed a friend in my partner, and he was not the right one. So he was basically just calling me out, and I didn't even realize it at the time. But please go ahead and continue to share.
Well, I've never shared this on a podcast before. And Ashlyn and I haven't even talked about sharing this, but I think it's time that we start sharing this. We through this work have come to understand so deeply our own subconscious minds and how the subconscious minds work. And I've written about that extensively in my book. But we think it's a long, complicated process to actually eliminate these subconscious programs. But the fact of the matter, it is not. We started the program talking about how you and I asked the universe basically out loud for help. And you can do the same thing with your subconscious programs. So when Ashlyn and I identify a subconscious program within ourselves, we ask that it be deleted. So here's how it would go, for example. Original God of all time, please delete and clear from my blueprint matrix the belief that I am not smart enough to take care of myself. And if anyone knows about muscle testing that's listening to this podcast, I would encourage you to write out the subconscious belief that you want to delete and then muscle test. Muscle testing is a way of, it's a yes and no thing. So basically you're saying the statement and you're muscle testing. I'm not smart enough to take care of myself. Say the statement. Are you going to get a yes or no? You could go back to Ashlyn's example. I am responsible for my partner's emotions. I am responsible for my partner's feelings. I am responsible for holding my parents' marriage together. Whatever these statements are that are bubbling up from your subconscious mind, take that statement, write it down, and then muscle test it. Then use the statement that I just gave you in this podcast and say that along with your statement, then muscle test and see what happens. And I would say 80% of the time, well, I shouldn't say that. It will be gone. If you ask, it will be gone.
Yeah, I believe that.
But there is one key to this. In the beginning of that statement, I said, original God of all time. As we know, throughout history, there have been many gods worshipped on this planet. So the key to all of this is really you're asking that original source, divine creator. That is who you're going to directly to delete these subconscious programs. It works. Ashlyn and I have deleted thousands.
Yeah, and I want to tap in there. If you do the muscle testing and say if it didn't delete, there's a deeper kind of root belief that needs to be cleared out. So keep, writing a few more statements and asking kind of what's underneath the belief. Well, what happens if, or, what does this mean? What's the meaning behind it? And you will get to the ultimate statement that, releases all of that. But I would definitely agree. I mean, do it and it will be cleared. It's truly, truly life-changing. And, our clients have had the exact same success, and we have many testimonials on our website at loveignitespeace.com. And we even have someone you can book with if you'd like to, have some assistance on the way. But the reality is that we are all powerful co-creators, and we all have this power within us to make these deep, lasting changes.
Absolutely. Some people just need a little bit more guidance with it.
And to just echo what Ashlyn said, if you're struggling with it, do book a session, because that session can get you started down the path that you need. Another thing that if this is super deep, I always use it as an I am statement.
Yes. I did a lot of affirmations. That's how I kind of cleared a lot of stuff for myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's muscle testing, like you said. It all functions in a very similar way. Mm-hmm. Well, I love that. Absolutely love that. And thank you for sharing that with our listeners. Now, I want to ground this for them. You teach Love's 6 actions. Understand, discern, allow, forgive, accept, and respect. This is the toolkit that we promised the listeners at the start of the show. So before we get into the specific story, can you briefly explain how these 6 actions work together, and then walk us through a real life conflict where you had to apply this framework to move from a triggered state back to peace?
Yes, I would love to do that. Love 6 actions came through to me as I was in this process of unpacking my own life, trying to figure out why I'd made the decisions I'd made, trying to figure out what the heck the statement "Love ignites peace" meant and why it was even given to me. Mm-hmm. And what happened were that these 6 actions became, I refer to them as like mini MINI, small workshops. Mm-hmm. And you also referred to them as a framework, and that's what they are. So one thing you need to know about Love 6 actions is that they are a parallel journey. So love six actions are meant to be applied to yourself, and they are meant to be applied as you look to your relationships outside of yourself. Look to your relationships that are challenging you.
Right.
Because as we know, that's how our life is just a series of one relationship after another. That's how we grow, that's how we evolve, that's how we learn about who we are. So as I was unpacking my own life, these different aspects of love six actions kept coming up to me in my own life so that I could offer myself as close to unconditional love as I could possibly get at that time in my life. And I will tell you that I still use them today because I don't know about you guys, but being perfectly honest, I'm still on a journey to
yes.
fully embodying the statement, love ignites peace. I am every day learning how to become more loving to myself and to others so that I can truly be this version of peace, this active version of peace that I take out into the world. So just a really quick story about this. This was probably October of last year. I was leading a group. So it was my turn to be in charge of the group for the day. And at the end, this man came up to me and said, "You know, Paige, if you talked less, we would have all had a chance to talk more." And I mean, those moments happen to all of us, right?
Yes.
You just, you're like, what the heck, right? So I said, thank you. I appreciate that feedback very much. And then I went home and I sat on my back porch and I got a little bit angrier and a little bit angrier, a little bit angrier. And I thought, oh my gosh, what the heck? What is going on here? But, giving myself half a day to just be mad, that's okay. Sometimes you got to do it, right?
We're still 3D.
Let that, yeah, let that emotion flow through you. And then I started using love six actions. First, I started with myself. And that first one is understand your story. So I tried to understand why a comment like that would make me feel so mad or bad. What was it in my own personal story that might be triggering to my reaction with this? And then the second action is discern. So then I took it like, okay, I'm going to get out of self-judgment and get into this place of discernment, which is where I ask why and really try to go into my subconscious mind. What is it in my subconscious mind that is saying that is telling me that what he said was true? Because that's why I think I got so mad. It's because it felt true. And as I dug deeper, what I discovered at that time was, and I had been working on this, that I really didn't deserve to be heard. That my message wasn't important enough because I wasn't important enough to be heard.
Right.
And so as I really started digging into that, then of course I could do the subconscious work. And then I went into the space of forgiveness, acceptance, respect, allowing. You can read about those in the book. But I also at the same time were offering those same love six actions to him.
Right.
What was it from his life that caused him to come up and tell a human being right there in front of 5 or 6 other people that, gosh, if you wouldn't have talked so much, we could have talked more. And, when I looked at him, I could see, he's a very, what I would call, rigid person. There's rules and regulations and how he operates. And again, then I just started applying love six actions to what I knew about him. And as it all came back around for me, 24, 48 hours later, I was able to take this big breath, this big big sigh of relaxation and say, whew, okay, all is well. I get it. Maybe I did talk a little bit too much. Doesn't matter if I did or didn't, but I've gotten to the root of it. And I don't need to hold or harbor any ill will toward this human being or judgment on myself.
Right. I love that. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
I always say, to me, whenever I feel triggered, it's almost like I have to take that moment and reflect, because I feel like everybody's a mirror for our subconscious. And when they do something that triggers us, it's like, okay, that triggered me. Why? What is it about myself that caused that to make me upset? And I do similar work. I just sit with it and I reflect on it, and I go into my subconscious and I find the root of the problem. And then a lot of it, I think a lot of it for many women especially does come down to that not being enough, or having those feelings that go way back of just not being good enough at something or not being worthy of something.
I think you're spot on.
And when we just say, you know what, it's okay. It's okay for me. I went through the imposter syndrome, especially with the beginning of this podcast. Like, there's no PhD, there's no D at all in my name. Like, why are people going to listen to me? But people are listening, and Spirit just kept telling me, they guaranteed me also, you'll never go without a topic. And they've been dead on about that. It's almost a year later. So just, go in deep and find out within yourself. And oh my God, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Well, of course, there's about 1,000 more stories of my life like that. And I'm sure every person on this podcast has thousands of stories from their own life where they have felt hurt or triggered. And Love 6 Actions can help them process all of those stories, whether they're happening in the present or whether they've happened years and years in the past.
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, Ashlyn, I want to ask you about this specifically. Your mantra is heart wide open, but many spiritual empaths in my community struggle with this because they absorb other people's energy like a sponge. How does getting your freak on, which I love, help someone stay open-hearted and high vibe without losing their boundaries or getting drained by the world around them?
I think this is such a great question, because I myself have spent years refining these practices to be able to do just what you asked. So first, I want to acknowledge that obviously there are times when it's easier and times when it's harder to really live that heart wide open life, especially as a spiritual empath. As you said, it's harder at times after a heartbreak or a strain in an important relationship or heavy things in the world, especially. And it's easier when you're in love or the weather outside is beautiful or a new song hits just right. But I think regardless of circumstances, a big part of living heart wide open has to do with exactly this idea you brought up, which is intentionally getting your freak, aka frequency, on. And then in this case, getting your freak on to open your heart and not lose those boundaries and not be drained by the world around you. So my mom mentioned before that self-awareness is really the single most loving action to shift your mental state. And I'd also now like to add step 2 to that, which is that the second single most loving action is then choice. So making, right? Like,
Yes, we all have a choice.
And so, you have the self-awareness, and then you have the ability to make the choice to then act upon what what you uncovered through that self-awareness. And that action step and that choice is what usually involves one of the many ways you get your freak, aka frequency, on. So let's dive into what that means, and then I will specifically answer this question down to the actionable tools that I put into place. But in terms of getting your freak on, we really break this idea into 2 different buckets. You've got the daily frequency and the deeper frequency. So as you can imagine, a daily frequency activity is something that you consciously do to raise your vibration on a daily, like, higher level way. So like going for a walk, meditating, saying those affirmations, being intentional in the foods that you put in your body. Like, even food, right, has different frequencies. Live, whole, nourished foods. the words you listen to, essential oils, whatever your thing is that raises your vibe. And then on the deeper frequency level, that's really the work you do to offload a lot of these deeper subconscious beliefs or soul suitcase traumas or physical illnesses, some of the things we've been talking about here today. And that definitely can take more work, but the juice is definitely worth the squeeze on that. So in terms of staying heart rate open, without losing those boundaries, without feeling drained, there are 2 daily frequency practices that I have used for years. And I kind of think of them like a pre-op and post-op vibes. So one is in the preparation. And so this allows you to open your heart and set the space for you to protect its openness. Because sometimes that's where we start to shut down or those boundaries start falling in because we haven't set our space in a strong enough way that really allows us to hold it. And so my actionable way of doing this is every morning I wake up and I do 3 parts to this overall affirmation, which is I am grounded, I am protected, and I am in my body. So when I do the I am grounded part, I feel my feet on the earth. I picture the energy coming out of it, wrapping around its core like a beautiful bow. And again, get as granular as you want, right? Like feel the sand beneath your toes or the dirt or the grass, like whatever, right, you really connect with. And you obviously, just to be clear, you don't have to be like up on the sand. It's just a visualization. But bonus points if you can actually get outside and
love the sand.
totally, or as the kids these days are saying, touch some grass. But so that's the I am grounded, and then I am protected. We've briefly touched on this, but we have so much support, divine support and assistance around us, and really all you have to do is ask. And so for me personally, I resonate a lot with angels, ascended masters, and so whoever relates to you, right? If you feel like Jesus is somebody you really want to call on, then great. Mother Mary, Buddha, there's no Kuan Yin, or like I said, Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, or just your own guardian angel. Call on as many beings of light for this protection and ask them to intervene in any and all ways for your highest and best good. And then the third piece is I do the I am in my body, which is calling on my higher self to just merge with every aspect of myself. So once I've done the I am grounded, I am protected, and I am in my body, I have now really set a lot of intentional space to hold my energy field and protect those boundaries. And then bonus, if I'm traveling, I'll ask to travel in to be put in a golden tube of light. It sounds kind of silly, but I'm serious, asking for these divine energies and assistance that we could, call upon and help us really is powerful. And what do you have to lose? It either works or it doesn't. But I can confidently tell you that it's been, yes, very powerfully believe and feel that in my own life. But then we move to post-op, right? So you've gone out, you set your space, and you've now been able to engage in a more grounded way, an embodied way, a boundary setting way. And now you've come home. And this is the post-op part. And we really like to call this your energetic hygiene. So part of energetic hygiene is that my energy is in my space and your energy is in yours, right? Mm. So an easy way to say this, if you feel like you have other people in your space, is my space is mine, your space is yours, I remain entanglement free. You can do a visualization where you're kind of cutting energetic cords to people you may have interacted with that day. And again, it doesn't mean you're cutting them out of your life. You're just allowing their energy to return to them and yours to return to you. Mm-hmm. And then one of my favorite practices here was shared to us by one of our podcast guests on our podcast, Love Ignites Peace, Bathtub Chats, was a woman named Dana Larson. And if you're any interest, she's on season 2, episode 14, one of our most popular episodes, which is Your Energy, Your Responsibility. And she talks about this practice where you take your hands and you put it in front of your face at the top of your head, and you slowly move down your entire body as you say your full name. So you just repeat your full name over and over and over again. And what this does is it just really makes sure that the energy that's in your space is only yours.
I love that.
And then last Yeah, it's a powerful one. And then lastly, I just think that this is really helpful because I think so often, stuff happens in our world and on social media that can pull our frequency down. And I find it really powerful sometimes to consciously say, I disconnect from the collective consciousness. And it doesn't mean that you're not caring, but it means that you're maintaining the integrity of your boundaries and your space, allowing your heart to stay open, and allowing that light and love to shine in the world without getting pulled down by all of the heaviness. Again, it doesn't mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're not active. It just means that you maintain those boundaries. So
that means you care enough about yourself to create
yes.
those boundaries so that the relationships around you remain healthy. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I love
Absolutely.
it.
And I know just one last thing on this, which is that for those that are listening, that their heart might feel really so shut down or closed off, I just also want you to know that, like, I'm a person who my whole mantra is heart wide open, but there have been times in my life where I was, full of grief, and opening my heart felt really difficult. And like we've talked about throughout this episode, it's really powerful to ask and put your intention, like, please help me on this journey to, like, letting go of this heaviness and being able to open my heart again. And it might take some time to fully climb out of that, but it can happen by intending, doing the deeper work, and sometimes doing those daily activities that don't always feel like you have the motivation to do, but will absolutely raise your vibration along the way. And I think your life in the world will be filled in so much joy, so much more joy, happiness, and love if we can all just open our hearts. But what were you going to say, Mom?
Well, I was just going to say, kind of ironic how this goes back to one of the things that you've been working on, for a long time in your subconscious, which is that I'm not responsible for everybody else's experience. And really, as empaths, and we're feeling the heaviness of the world. The fact of the matter is, we can send love to them and peace to them, and do everything that Ashlyn just so beautifully talked about in that process. But the fact of the matter is, you're not responsible for their experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that from a place of harshness.
Nope.
I mean that from a place of self-love.
That is very beautifully put and perfectly said. I wish I had more time with you ladies. Oh my goodness, I have so many more questions, but I know that we've got to go. This has been such a nourishing conversation. I feel like my own frequency has shifted just by being in this space with both of you today. Thank you
we're
both.
So grateful.
Thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you both for your genuine honesty, your vulnerability, and for sharing your stories and giving our listeners these beautiful toolkits. Thank you. So before we go, though, I would love to leave our listeners with a feeling. If you could briefly transmit one specific emotion or attention to every single person listening right now beyond words, what would that be?
For me, it would be empowerment. Anything is possible.
Yay.
And for me, that would be peace. That they truly are able to embody the state of peace, find peace in their hearts, peace in their lives, and peace on this earthly journey.
Beautiful. And where can our community go to connect with you both so they can get their freak on and dive deeper into Love Ignites Peace?
You can find us on Instagram at Love Ignites, IGNITES, Peace, PEACE, Love Ignites Peace. And you can also find us in that exact same Love Ignites Peace spelling at loveignitespeace.com. Those would be our top two. And then I would also highly recommend taking a trip to Amazon and looking up my mom's book, Love Ignites Peace, Our Next Evolution. As you mentioned, it is an International Impact Award-winning book for self-help and empowerment. So definitely so much to learn and glean from that. And there's also a companion journal. So if you're really ready to dive in, we have the tools, the resources, and even the podcast, as I mentioned, for you.
Don't forget the podcast.
Yes, we love a good podcast.
I love that it's bathroom chats. Like, listeners, you have to check out their podcast. And I love their cover too. They're both like over the bathtub with their robes and their towels on their heads. It's so cute. I love it.
Taking a dip in the bathtub, taking a dip into self-exploration. That was the inspiration. So come take a dip with us.
Well, thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you both so much. And I was definitely honored to be able to explore and share this space with you both today.
Thank you, Jessica. We so appreciated it as well. Keep up the great work that you're doing, and best of luck, best wishes to you on your work and everything, your travels, you name it. Enjoy it.
Thank you. Thank you. And to you listening, thank you for honoring your journey by being here today. If this conversation sparked a light in you, please take a moment to subscribe and leave a comment below and let me know which of the 6 actions you need most in your life right now. Remember, your authenticity is your greatest power. So until next time, keep rising into your authenticity.